the melody of the curse. In the bustling city of Seoul, the K-pop industry was a world of glittering lights and relentless ambition. At the heart of this universe was a rising girl group named Pink Dolls, struggling to break through the competitive landscape. Led by their determined leader Yoonju, the group comprised the innocent and sweet Ah-ra, the fierce and confident Jennie, and the shy but talented Shinji. The group's fortunes took a sudden turn when they moved into a new rehearsal studio. The studio was rumored to be haunted, but desperate for a break, the girls dismissed the stories as mere superstitions. Among the piles of old equipment and dusty instruments, they discovered a mysterious VHS tape. Curious, they played it and found a mesmerizing but eerie music video for a song titled White. The song's haunting melody and captivating lyrics were unlike anything they had ever heard. Eunju, sensing a hit, convinced the group to adopt White as their new single. Almost immediately, their luck changed. The song skyrocketed to the top of the charts, bringing them the fame they had always dreamed of. However, with their new success came a series of inexplicable and terrifying events. Ah-ra was the first to be affected. During a live performance, she suddenly collapsed, screaming in agony as her hair turned white and her skin blistered. Doctors were baffled, unable to diagnose her condition. Despite the horrific incident, the group's popularity continued to soar, and Ah-ra's place was reluctantly taken by another trainee, Seon-ye. Next, Jennie experienced horrific visions. She saw herself being suffocated by an unseen force, and her nightmares began to bleed into reality. One night, as she rehearsed alone, the studio's mirrors shattered, and a ghostly figure appeared, its mouth twisted into a sinister smile. Jennie's fear reached a breaking point when she was found dead in the studio, her face frozen in a rictus of terror. Her hair also turned a shocking white. As the group's success continued, Shinji became withdrawn, her mental state deteriorating. She claimed to hear the song White playing incessantly, driving her to the brink of madness. One evening, she disappeared. Eunju found her lifeless body floating in the studio's swimming pool, her hair too stark white. Eunju, now alone and desperate, delved into the song's origins. She discovered that White was composed by a former pop idol named Jang Min-hee, who had been part of an obscure girl group in the 1990s. Min-hee had been bullied and ostracized by her bandmates, leading to her tragic suicide. The song White was her final creation, infused with her pain and desire for revenge. Legend had it that Min-hee's spirit haunted the song, cursing anyone who dared to perform it. Determined to break the curse, Eunju decided to confront the malevolent spirit. She returned to the studio, armed with the knowledge she had gathered. As she played the original VHS tape, Min-hee's ghost appeared. Her face contorted with rage and sorrow, Eunju pleaded with her, expressing regret for exploiting the song and acknowledging Min-hee's suffering. In a final desperate act, Eunju set fire to the VHS tape, hoping to destroy the source of the curse. The studio erupted in flames, and Eunju barely escaped with her life. The fire consumed the building, and with it, the cursed song. In the aftermath, Eunju left the entertainment industry, haunted by the memories of her friends and the price of their success. She dedicated her life to raising awareness about the pressures and dangers within the K-pop world, hoping to prevent others from falling victim to similar tragedies. Despite her efforts, whispers of a new girl group discovering an old haunting melody in a forgotten studio persisted. The legend of White lived on, a chilling reminder of the dark side of fame and the enduring power of a curse born from anguish and revenge. The Haunting Pursuit. In the heart of Seoul, a gritty and unforgiving city, an ex-cop turned private detective named Jung-ho Eom prowled the streets. He was a man haunted by his past failures, now making a living by tracking down runaways and cheating spouses. The city's underbelly was his domain, a place where shadows whispered secrets and danger lurked around every corner. One rainy night, Jung-ho received a call from an old acquaintance, a brothel owner named Young-sik. Several of Young-sik's girls had gone missing without a trace, and he suspected foul play. Desperate for money and intrigued by the mystery, Jung-ho agreed to take the case. He began his investigation, retracing the steps of the missing women. His search led him to a dilapidated neighborhood on the outskirts of the city, a place where hope had long since been extinguished. As he delved deeper, he uncovered a pattern. Each girl had been lured by a mysterious client who always paid in cash and never gave his name. The trail eventually led to a reclusive man named Young-min Ji, a quiet and unassuming individual who lived in a decaying house at the end of a deserted street. Jung-ho, sensing something was off, decided to stake out Young-min's house. Days turned into nights, and Jung-ho's patience was finally rewarded when he saw Young-min leaving his home under the cover of darkness. Jung-ho followed him through the labyrinthine alleys of Seoul, maintaining a safe distance. Young-min's movements were erratic and unnerving, leading Jung-ho to an old abandoned hospital on the edge of the city. The hospital, once a beacon of hope, was now a crumbling relic of the past. Its corridors echoed with the memories of pain and suffering, and the air was thick with the scent of decay. Jung-ho entered cautiously, his flashlight piercing the oppressive darkness. The further he ventured, the more he felt a malevolent presence watching him, its unseen eyes following his every move. As he navigated the labyrinth of hallways, Jung-ho discovered a hidden basement. The air grew colder as he descended, and the walls seemed to close in around him. In the basement, he found a series of makeshift cells, each containing gruesome evidence of the horrors that had taken place there. Blood-stained walls and crude restraints painted a picture of unspeakable torture and suffering. In one of the cells, Jung-ho found a diary belonging to one of the missing girls. Her desperate scribbles recounted a tale of abduction and torment at the hands of Young-min. The diary ended abruptly, with the final pages smeared with blood. As Jung-ho read, he heard faint, ghostly whispers echoing through the basement, the voices of the victims pleading for release. Determined to put an end to the madness, Jung-ho confronted Young-min in his home. The confrontation was brutal and intense, with Jung-ho narrowly escaping death multiple times. In the end, he managed to subdue Young-min and turned him over to the police. However, the ordeal was far from over. Haunted by the horrors he had uncovered, Jung-ho couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. His nightmares were filled with the faces of the victims, their eyes accusing and filled with pain. The ghosts of the past seemed to follow him, their whispers growing louder with each passing day. One night, as Jung-ho tried to drown his sorrows in alcohol, he received a chilling phone call. The voice on the other end was faint and distorted, but unmistakably that of one of the missing girls. She pleaded for his help, saying that she was still trapped in the hospital, her soul unable to find peace. Driven by guilt and a desire for redemption, Jung-ho returned to the abandoned hospital. The building seemed to pulsate with a malevolent energy, and the air was thick with a sense of impending doom. As he ventured deeper into the darkness, the whispers grew louder, forming a cacophony of torment. In the basement, he found the cell where the girl's diary had ended. Her ghostly form appeared before him, her eyes filled with sorrow and longing. She revealed that Young-min had been merely a pawn, manipulated by a far more sinister force that still lingered within the hospital. The true mastermind was an ancient malevolent spirit that fed on the suffering of its victims. Determined to end the curse once and for all, Jung-ho performed a ritual to banish the spirit. The hospital shook violently, and the walls seemed to bleed as the spirit fought back. In a final act of defiance, the spirit manifested in a grotesque, nightmarish form, its eyes burning with hatred. With the help of the girl's spirit, Jung-ho managed to weaken the entity and trap it within a circle of salt and holy symbols. As the spirit dissipated into nothingness, the hospital fell silent, its oppressive weight lifting. The ghosts of the victims appeared, their faces serene and grateful. One by one, they vanished into the ether, finally finding peace. Exhausted and broken, Jung-ho emerged from the hospital. As dawn broke over the city, the case had taken everything from him, but he had brought closure to the restless souls. The memories of the horrors he had witnessed would never leave him, but he found solace in knowing that he had made a difference. The abandoned hospital was eventually demolished, its dark legacy erased from the city's landscape. However, the story of Jung-ho's haunting pursuit became a legend, a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk behind the facade of normalcy. And though the spirits were at peace, the echoes of their suffering remained, a testament to the horrors that had unfolded within those cursed walls. Death Bell. On a warm spring day, the prestigious Changin High School in Seoul was abuzz with excitement and anxiety. The top 20 students, known for their academic excellence, were selected to participate in a special study camp to prepare for the upcoming university entrance exams. The camp promised intensive study sessions with the best teachers and state-of-the-art facilities. Among the chosen students was Kang Yi-na, a diligent and ambitious girl determined to secure a spot in one of Korea's top universities. The camp began on a Saturday morning. The students, eager yet apprehensive, arrived at the school to find it transformed. The usual bustling corridors were eerily silent, and the school was devoid of its usual hustle and bustle. The windows were covered with thick curtains, and security cameras were placed in every corner. The head teacher, Mr. Kim, greeted them with a stern face, explaining that the camp was designed to push their limits and ensure their success. As the first study session commenced, the students settled into their seats in the main classroom, each equipped with a tablet and study materials. Suddenly, the lights flickered, and the large screen at the front of the room came to life. A distorted voice echoed through the speakers, and a hooded figure appeared on the screen. The figure's voice was cold and menacing. "Welcome, students. You have been chosen for a special test. Your intelligence, your will to survive, and your loyalty to each other will be tested. Failure to comply will result in deadly consequences." The students exchanged nervous glances, unsure if this was some sort of elaborate prank. Their questions were answered when the screen displayed a live feed of their classmate Ji-won, trapped in a glass tank filling with water. The hooded figure's voice continued. "To save Ji-won, you must solve the first problem within the allotted time. Fail, and she drowns." Panic ensued. The students frantically worked together to solve the complex math problem displayed on their tablets. With seconds to spare, Yi-na shouted the answer, and the water stopped rising. Ji-won was saved, but the relief was short-lived. The figure on the screen warned them that the tests would only get harder and the stakes higher. Over the next few hours, the students were subjected to a series of gruesome challenges. Each test was designed to exploit their fears and weaknesses. One by one, their classmates were trapped in deadly contraptions, and the students had to solve increasingly difficult problems to save them. The atmosphere was tense, and the once unified group began to fracture under the pressure. As the night wore on, Yi-na noticed a pattern in the problems they were being given. They all related to their personal lives and dark secrets. She realized that the hooded figure must be someone with intimate knowledge of their pasts. With this revelation, Yi-na began to suspect that one of them might be the orchestrator of this macabre game. During a brief respite between tests, Yi-na and her close friend, Hyun-soo, snuck away to the school's office to investigate. There, they found a file containing detailed information about each student, including their deepest secrets and academic records. To their horror, they also discovered plans for the deadly contraptions and a list of the remaining tests. Their search was interrupted by the figure's distorted voice, summoning them back to the classroom for the next challenge. As they returned, they saw their classmate Min Jung strapped to a chair, a timer counting down above her head. The challenge was to solve a series of riddles that revealed clues to disarm a bomb attached to the chair. Yi-na, Hyun-soo, and the others worked frantically, their minds racing against the ticking clock. With mere seconds left, they disarmed the bomb, saving Min Jung. But the victory was bittersweet. They were physically and emotionally drained, and their trust in each other was eroding. In a final desperate attempt to end the nightmare, Yi-na confronted Mr. Kim, accusing him of being involved. His nervous reaction confirmed her suspicions. She pressured him to reveal the truth, And he confessed that he had been blackmailed into cooperating by the true mastermind, a former student named Seo Jin. Seo Jin had been a top student who cracked under the pressure of the entrance exams years ago, leading to a breakdown and expulsion. Blaming the school and its high-pressure environment for ruining her life, she sought revenge by orchestrating this deadly game. With Mr. Kim's help, she had gathered information on the students and set the traps. Determined to stop Seo Jin, Yina and Hyunsu devised a plan. They used the security cameras to locate her control room in the basement. Armed with newfound courage and a resolve to end the terror, they navigated the dark, maze-like corridors of the school, evading traps and overcoming obstacles. In the basement, they found Seo Jin, her eyes wild with vengeance. A final confrontation ensued, with Seo Jin revealing her twisted justification for the horrors she had inflicted. Yina appealed to her humanity, trying to reason with her. But Seo Jin, consumed by rage and grief, activated the school's final trap, a countdown to a massive explosion. With no time to waste, Yina and Hyunsu fought to disarm the bomb. Their classmates, having regained their composure, joined them. Working together in a final act of unity, in a race against time, they managed to disable the bomb just as the countdown reached 0. Seo Jin, realizing her defeat, broke down in tears. The authorities were called and she was taken into custody. The surviving students emerged from the ordeal scarred but alive, their bonds strengthened by the horrors they had faced together. Changing high school's reputation was tarnished, and the incident sparked a nationwide debate about the pressures of the education system. Yina and her friends, forever changed by their ordeal, vowed to advocate for a better, more supportive environment for future students. Years later, the story of the death bell would be remembered as a cautionary tale of ambition, revenge, and the strength of the human spirit in the face of unimaginable terror. Echoes of the Lost. In a tranquil suburb on the outskirts of Seoul, architect Sang-won moved into a new home with his young daughter Ina after the tragic death of his wife. The house was a sprawling old manor with creaky floorboards and an eerie charm. Sang-won hoped the fresh start would help them both heal and rebuild their lives. The house's previous owners had left in a hurry, abandoning much of their furniture and belongings. Among these was an antique wardrobe in Ina's room, a tall, imposing piece of furniture with intricate carvings. Despite its grandeur, there was something unsettling about it. Ina, however, took an immediate liking to it, saying it was her secret hideout. As the days passed, Sang-won noticed odd occurrences around the house. At night, he heard faint whispers and footsteps echoing through the halls, but dismissed them as the house settling. Ina began having vivid nightmares and speaking of imaginary friends who visited her in the wardrobe. Sang-won, preoccupied with his work and grief, brushed off her stories as the product of an overactive imagination. One evening, after tucking Ina into bed, Sang-won went to his study to work on a project. Hours later, he was jolted awake by a piercing scream. Rushing to Ina's room, he found her in tears, pointing at the wardrobe. "They want to take me away, Daddy," she cried, desperate to calm her. Sang-won moved the wardrobe to the attic, hoping it would put an end to her fears. The following morning, Ina seemed calmer, but as the day wore on, her behavior grew increasingly strange. She spoke in hushed tones, as if conversing with unseen entities, and her drawings depicted dark, twisted figures lurking in shadows. Sang-won's concern grew, but he was still hesitant to acknowledge the supernatural. One night, Sang-won awoke to find Ina missing from her bed. Panic set in as he scoured the house, calling her name. His search led him to the attic, where the wardrobe stood ominously in the center of the room. To his horror, the doors were slightly ajar. Mustering his courage, he flung them open, only to find Ina huddled inside, her eyes wide with terror. "It's the closet, Daddy. It's a gateway," she whispered. "They're coming for me." Realizing he could no longer ignore the bizarre occurrences, Sang-won sought help from a renowned shaman, Miss Jung, known for her expertise in dealing with malevolent spirits. Miss Jung inspected the house and confirmed Sang-won's worst fears. The wardrobe was indeed a portal to another realm, inhabited by restless spirits seeking to claim the living. Miss Young explained that the wardrobe's carvings were ancient symbols used to bind spirits. The previous owners had tried to contain the malevolent entities, but failed, leaving the house in a state of perpetual haunting. She agreed to perform a ritual to seal the portal and protect Ina from the spirits. The ritual was set for the following night. Miss Young instructed Song-Wan to gather specific herbs and items needed for the ceremony. As night fell, the house seemed to come alive with malevolent energy. Shadows danced along the walls, and the air grew thick with an oppressive presence. Miss Young began the ritual, chanting incantations and lighting sacred candles around the wardrobe. Sang-Wan held Ina close, watching in trepidation as the atmosphere grew increasingly tense. The wardrobe shook violently, and a chilling wind swept through the attic, extinguishing the candles. Suddenly, the doors of the wardrobe burst open, revealing a swirling vortex of darkness. From within, ghostly hands reached out, clawing at the air. Miss Young continued her chants, her voice unwavering. As she threw the herbs into the vortex, the spirits recoiled, but the battle was far from over. In a moment of sheer terror, Ina was pulled from Sang-Wan's grasp and dragged toward the wardrobe. Sang-Wan lunged forward, grabbing her just in time. He fought against the unseen force, his love for his daughter giving him strength. With a final desperate effort, he managed to pull her free. Miss Young, seeing the struggle, intensified her efforts. She retrieved a sacred talisman from her bag and hurled it into the vortex. A blinding light erupted from the wardrobe, and a blood-curdling scream echoed through the attic. The spirits were banished, the portal sealed, and the wardrobe fell silent. Exhausted but relieved, Sang-Wan and Ina embraced. Miss Young warned that while the immediate danger was over, the house remained a place of residual energy and advised them to leave as soon as possible. Grateful for her help, Sang-Wan decided to sell the house and move far away with Ina, determined to give her the fresh start she deserved. They moved to a new city and a modern apartment filled with light and hope. Though the memories of the haunted house lingered, they gradually faded with time. Sang-Wan and Ina began to heal, finding solace in each other and the new life they had built. Years later, rumors about the old manor continued to circulate. It stood abandoned, a relic of dark history, with locals avoiding it out of fear. The legend of the haunted wardrobe became a cautionary tale, a reminder of the thin veil between the living and the dead, and the love of a father willing to face any horror to protect his child. Echoes of the Forest. In the quiet countryside of South Korea, near the base of the mysterious Mount Jang, a grieving family sought solace in a quaint remote village. Hee-yeon and her husband Min-ho, along with their young daughter Jun-hee, had moved to the village after the tragic disappearance of their son Jun-seo. The loss left a gaping hole in their hearts, and they hoped the change of scenery would help them heal. The village was nestled near a dense forest, a place shrouded in local legend. The villagers spoke of a supernatural entity known as the Jangsan tiger, a creature that mimicked human voices to lure its victims into the forest. Hee-yeon, though intrigued by the stories, dismissed them as mere folklore. One warm afternoon, while exploring the edge of the forest, Hee-yeon heard the faint sound of a child crying. Her heart raced, hoping it might be a sign of Jun-seo. She followed the sound deeper into the woods, where she discovered a young girl, dirty and disheveled, hiding behind a tree. The girl, who seemed to be around Jun-hee's age, was in a state of shock and unable to speak. Hee-yeon brought the girl home, and despite her silence, she seemed to bond with Jun-hee. The girl, who they named Soo-jin, quickly became a part of their family. Hee-yeon and Min-ho, grateful for the new addition, found their lives slowly brightening. However, Hee-yeon couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Soo-jin's presence brought strange occurrences. At night, Hee-yeon would hear whispers and footsteps echoing through the house. She began to see fleeting shadows at the corner of her vision, and heard Jun-hee's voice calling from the forest, even when Jun-hee was asleep beside her. The incidents grew more unsettling, and Hee-yeon's anxiety mounted. One evening, while tucking Jun-hee into bed, Hee-yeon noticed a drawing on her daughter's desk. It depicted their family, but with an extra figure, a dark, shadowy presence looming behind them. When asked about it, Junhee innocently explained that it was the lady from the forest who visited her at night. Hee-yeon's blood ran cold. Determined to uncover the truth, Hee-yeon visited the village shaman, an elderly woman with deep knowledge of the local lore. The shaman warned her that the Jangsan tiger was the powerful and malevolent spirit that took the form of those it lured away. It thrived on the grief and despair of its victims, mimicking their loved ones to sow confusion and fear. Hee-yeon realized with horror that Sujin might not be what she seemed. Armed with this knowledge, Hee-yeon confronted Sujin. The girl's innocent facade cracked, revealing a sinister smile. That night, Hee-yeon was awakened by Junhee's voice calling from the forest. Fearing for her daughter's safety, she followed the sound, only to find Junhee standing at the edge of the forest, staring blankly into the darkness. As Hee-yeon approached, she saw multiple figures moving between the trees. Her missing son Junseo, her own reflection, and other faces she recognized from the village. Each figure mimicked voices of loved ones, calling out with chilling accuracy. The Jangsan tiger was playing with her mind, exploiting her deepest fears and desires. Desperate to save Junhee, Hee-yeon remembered the shaman's advice: confront the entity with unwavering resolve. She grasped Junhee's hand and began chanting a prayer the shaman had taught her, one meant to ward off evil spirits. The forest seemed to writhe in response, the figures flickering and distorting. The Jangsan tiger, its true form finally revealed, emerged from the shadows. It was a grotesque, shifting mass of faces and voices, each vying for dominance. Hee-yeon's chant grew louder, filled with determination and love for her daughter. The entity recoiled, its power weakening under the force of her conviction. With a final, defiant scream, the Jangsan tiger dissipated into the night, its hold over the forest broken. Hee-yeon collapsed to the ground, clutching Junhee tightly. The dawn broke, casting light on the forest that seemed less foreboding now. In the aftermath, Hee-yeon and her family slowly regained a sense of normalcy. They never found Junseo, but Hee-yeon found peace in the knowledge that she had protected Junhee from the same fate. The villagers, grateful for Hee-yeon's bravery, shared stories of loved ones who had disappeared over the years, now understanding the true nature of the forest curse. Hee-yeon and Min-ho eventually moved away from the village, seeking a fresh start once more. They carried with them the memory of Junseo and the knowledge that no matter the darkness that lurked, the strength of their love and resolve could withstand even the most malevolent forces. The legend of the Jangsan tiger lived on, a cautionary tale of grief and the supernatural, a reminder that some spirits, driven by their pain, would go to great lengths to find solace, even if it meant dragging others into their eternal despair.